Joining me now right here on set is Treasury Secretary Scott Besson. China extended to November 10th, 2025. That's another 3 months, essentially. What are the key issues in the discussions with China, which you are leading?
China's like a multi-level chess game because traditionally our biggest economic rivals have been our allies. So during 60s, 70s, 80s, even through the 90s, beginning of the aughts, our biggest economic rivals were the Europeans, Japanese, the Soviet Union up until the wall came down, was a military power but a small economy. And with China, we've never seen anything like this in modern times. It's our biggest economic rival and our biggest military rival. So we're solving for several variables here. What we are trying to do is to get to more balanced trade. President Trump wants the U.S. economy to rebalance towards more manufacturing. It's my belief and most outside observers' belief that the Chinese economy is the most unbalanced economy in modern times. They need to rebalance toward the consumer. So could we do that together? We've talked a lot about that. President Trump has an excellent relationship with Party Chair Xi, so that's very helpful. We'll be meeting with the counterparts again within the next 2 or 3 months, and we'll go from there.
President says he wants to meet with Xi?
President Xi has invited President Trump. We'll see. I'm not going to get out ahead of the president on that meeting.
Do you know when that will be?
Well, there's no date, Larry. The president hasn't accepted yet.
Okay, I get it. You don't want to talk about that. Rare earth magnets, can you make a deal on that? That's really an important economic and national security issue, rare earth magnets. It's come to that.
Well, we do have a deal on that, and that's been the nature of the talks and a big subject of the talks.
Have they opened it up? Is it flowing now to the U.S.?
It is flowing. It is flowing. But that was what we were talking about in Geneva, in London, in Stockholm. And the other thing we're doing is you will see the company called Mountain Pass that the U.S. government has taken a stake in. We're also working with four, 5, 6, 7 other smaller companies to make sure that we can wean ourselves away from the dependency on China as a point of single failure for these rare earth magnets.
Do you think, I mean, I know it's hard, but in the next 3 months or so, you'll be negotiating here and there and so forth. We went through this in the first term, Lord knows. Do you expect the tariff rates to remain stable? Ours is 10%. Theirs is 30% plus 25%, 55%. A lot of people are interested less, I think, in the details than they are in the tariff rates. Can you say anything on that?
So, Larry, the only thing that I could imagine changing, and I think there's going to have to be a lot of runway here. 20% of the tariffs are based on called the fentanyl tariffs, and China is the source and the supplier of the precursor chemicals for fentanyl. They make their way to Canada, Mexico, end up in the U.S., killed 100,000, 200,000 of our citizens last year. It's unacceptable. So we will need to see months, if not quarters, if not a year of progress on that before I could imagine those tariffs coming down. But again, that's up to President Trump. I hope the Chinese will want to make substantial progress on that.
Could China do what some of these other countries do, like Japan, South Korea, and the EU? Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary Lutnick, was on the show not so long ago. He calls it buying down tariffs. So one of the buckets is this national security and economic fund. That's how he put it. You may have another name for it. I don't think people know much about this. The sums are very substantial. I mean, sounds like could be a couple $1 trillion and growing. Essentially government investment here. Is this like a sovereign wealth fund? Does this go directly into the Treasury Department and Mr. Trump and the U.S. government hold 90% of the profits and you direct the resources? How's this going to play out? Do you have a sense of it yet?
Well, I think so. I think your initial question, Larry, was could China do a buyout like this?
Yep.
And my sense is no, because a lot of the buyout or the funds from the buyout are going to go to critical industries that we need to reshore, and a lot of those need to be reshored away from China. So, whether it's semiconductors, magnets, pharma, steel. So my sense is that isn't what will happen. We have these agreements in place where the Japanese, the Koreans, and to some extent the Europeans will invest in companies and industries that we direct them largely at the president's discretion.
And how's that work? I mean, it's almost like an offshore appropriation. I'm not sure we've ever had anything like that in the States before. Have you consulted with the, I don't know, the Senate Finance Committee or the House Ways and Means Committee, or what?
Well, Larry, I think a good framing of that is other countries, in essence, are providing us with a sovereign wealth fund. So
they're going to buy our goods. That's essentially what's going on. Wait, let me step back. They're going to build our factories. They're going to help us to build new factories, which Mr. Trump loves.
Exactly. So the way to think about it is these huge surpluses accumulated offshore. Let's take Japan. We're going to have 550 billion, and they will be reinvesting that back into the U.S. economy, and we will be able to direct them as we reshore these critical industries. We are trying to de-risk the U.S. economy from what we saw during COVID.
President loves new factories. He'll take rehabbed old factories, but he loves new factories. And the strategic areas you were mentioning before, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, cars, steel, and so forth, defense technology, he loves new factories. I think that's the heart of his whole trade policy. He wants new factories.
Well, he likes factories, and the factory workers love him.
Yeah, that's right.
I was with him the night before the end of the campaign in Pittsburgh at the Duquesne Arena, full of steel workers. Then I went with him to when he announced the U.S. Steel, Nippon Steel deal back in Pittsburgh. And I tell you, those steel workers, he is their president.
That is the blue-collar boom. That is the blue-collar boom. He wants those new factories.
Well, he wants Main Street to win.
And if a couple of these countries have to pay up for the privilege of helping us, fine.
Great. And as you just announced earlier, Wall Street hit a new high, and within the next year, 2 years, Main Street's going to hit a new high too.
Okay. Some bits and pieces here. If the tariff court wins on appeal, you got other ways to put this trade and tariff policy together? Well,
Larry, good framing here would be if the tariff court rules against us, it will immediately be enjoined, so the tariffs will likely continue. Then it will go to the Supreme Court in October. Then we would expect a ruling in January. But I tell you, Larry, the amount of money that's coming in here, I think the more deals we've done, the more money coming in, it gets harder and harder for SCOTUS to rule against us.
How much you got cooking on that, the amount of money? Ballpark. Both private direct investment and these government investments.
Well, just on the tariff income, I'd been saying 300 billion, but I think we're going to have to substantially revise that up. So well in excess 1% of GDP. And then with the new investments, they're the sovereign investments that we talked about. But then in terms of the committed investment by private industry, we're well over 10 trillion.
Oh, 10 trillion. It's an unbelievable number, unbelievable story. Switch gears a little bit. I know you haven't officially come out with it, but you've been talking about banning single stock trading. I always think of Nancy Pelosi. You were a very good Wall Street investor when you were in that business, but you can't touch Nancy Pelosi's performance. I don't think anybody can. Druckenmiller, none of these guys. She's the best investor probably in the 21st century.
Well, we got to do something, Larry. I mean, this is a disgrace. There are plenty of people who go to Congress to serve their constituents, serve their country, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people who go there to get rich. If you or I or anyone else traded on the information that they use, and I'm talking about the House and the Senate, they have access to inside information, and there is no penalty for them trading on it. There are I think there's an ETF that follows Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi.
There is. It's over 100,000 followers.
And then we got Senator Ron Wyden, who would make Stan Druckenmiller blush. He was up 127 1 year, then 70%. I mean, when do you have time to legislate?
I'm sure his acumen is just fabulous. So anyway, you're going to push this. President will back this?
Well, the president's already backing it, and I think it's something, there's bipartisan support. Hakeem Jeffries backs it. So, and again, the president has been most transparent president in history, and I think with Congress's ratings at an all-time low, I think this is a necessary first step. Congress should stop single stock trading. When I had my fund, no one could buy single stocks. You could buy ETFs. You could buy money market funds, and we had a holding period.
Will you let them buy ETFs?
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Above a certain size. Above a certain size. But I also think there should be holding periods. I mean, I'm not going to say who it was, but there was a congressman who did more than 1,300 trades 2 years ago. My hedge fund didn't do 1,300 trades in a year.
You're right. He didn't have time to do anything else. Was it you told the Nikkei Asian newspaper that you thought you'd have all the tariffs and trading wrapped up by the end of October?
That's aspirational, but I think we are in a good position. The big trade deals that aren't done aren't agreed. Switzerland's still around. India's been a bit recalcitrant. And then the hard part, Jameson Greer and his team, I forget, I think he's got 200 lawyers or something, are busy papering all this over. So I think we will have agreed on substantial terms with all the substantial countries. And as I've been saying for a long time, the president's doing peace deals, trade deals, tax deals. Tax deal, thanks to your help, one big, beautiful bill.
Well, that's it. You will have achieved, as Treasury Secretary, you had the lead on one big, beautiful bill. I mean, for the president, but you had the lead at staff level. The trading stuff, you'll have the lead on that. You'll be done. And I was just thinking about that. That's a hell of a performance for a Treasury Secretary, and you'll be looking for new challenges, so you'll probably go over and become the chairman of the Fed.
Larry, there are plenty of challenges left at 1500 Pennsylvania. I'm next door to the White House.
I gotta laugh at it. I gotta smile at it.
Well, you can. But there's so much left to do. And look, the success of all this, success of the trade deals, the success of the tax deal, that's President Trump. President Trump applying maximum leverage, but we're going to be working on affordability. I think there's a lot to do on housing. We're going to be given the student loan portfolio. I think that there is a firm but humane way to work on that. It is the largest single asset of the U.S. government. It's up to $1.7 trillion now. So there's always plenty to do, and the China negotiations will be continuing.
Secretary Scott Besson, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it very, very much.